We find ourselves in this strange situation of lockdown coming to an end, carrying with us the shared isolation people have been feeling, the fears for jobs and security, and how exhausting and frustrating it has been, either being young people at home from school or college, or caring for children and just getting through the day, or if we've been on our own for too long. Whatever our situation has been, we have each experienced isolation, which the human personality is not prepared for. The strange situation we are now in of letting go, but not letting go of our guard. We're entering the new normal and living with this virus. We think of relatives at a distance we've not been able to visit, others working from home or furloughed, the heavy load carers, nurses, and doctors have carried, and the deep concerns of employers and those working hard in essential jobs, and the concerns of how we open safely. And perhaps the hardest thing of all, being unable to mourn properly those who have died. Whilst we may be longing for some normality, excited by the prospect of socializing again, but at the same time understanding the fears of those not eager to join the busy streets, shopping centres, and restaurants for fear of infection because of serious conditions making others more vulnerable. As the social life of the country begins again, some of us will have been turning our thoughts to when we can go back to church, some having missed its solace and the companionship of others. And then there are those thinking it's too soon. We may be weighing our need to return and be open to our communities, to say, if you like, we are here for you against the real necessities of safety. Whatever we are feeling, we hold one another, metaphorically or wishing we really could physically. Place has become significant for us, either because of the frustration of four walls and our need to get out, or remembering when things were, in our understanding, more normal before the virus. Church for us is a place, a significant space where we are welcomed, where we feel we belong, a place of solace and of meeting, a place of prayerful memory, of purposeful hospitality and action for the community. I am reminded of one of many special places, Winchester Cathedral, where Margaret and I formally became engaged. In the crypt, we found a sculpture by Anthony Gormley, a single human figure holding in its cupped hands a bowl of water, standing in an attitude of reflection, surrounded by light in the darkness. A quiet, contemplative piece of art, recognizing the human presence in a spiritual place of memory and prayer. Our reading from Genesis 28 helps us to reflect upon the nature of place and tells of Jacob, chosen by God, and his dream while sleeping. He dreams of a stairway or ladder between heaven and earth, with angels climbing and descending upon the very place where he was resting. A thin place, in spiritual terms, where heaven and earth seemed very close together. Jacob wakes and raises a stone in that holy place, giving it a name, Bethel, which means house of God. Jacob has made a covenant promise with God to fulfill God's purposes for him, and that God would be with him wherever he wandered. In this encounter, Jacob recognizes a special place, marks and blesses it as a place of sacred encounter, and moves on into the world, knowing God would be with him. The French artist Marc Chagall painted large canvases in deep, rich colours, depicting Old Testament stories which were his inspiration. He painted the story we have read this morning, And as always in his paintings, he included images of local people and scenes in the background, because for him the biblical stories were an encounter with the present world and its moral concerns that surrounded him. So for the artist, place, be it synagogue or church, memory and our contemporary everyday lives are wrapped up together, and God is with us in what at times seems a messy world. This reminded me of another encounter, again with a special place, Jacob's Well in Samaria, where Jesus, a Jew, meets a Samaritan woman in John chapter 4. However, the well named after Jacob is in the inheritance of both Jews and Samaritans as their common ancestor, then in their day becoming a meeting point for the gathering of water. There ensues a conversation about the right place of worship, the temple in Jerusalem for Jews or the shrine on Mount Gerizim for Samaritans. Jesus says that in the future we will worship God anywhere, in spirit and in truth, and that he was the living water. I wonder if this helps us further in our thinking about the significance of place. I feel that over the past few weeks there has been an awakening about the significance of places and monuments and what they say to the world, whether it's tombs in cathedrals or public statues to historical figures like Cecil Rhodes, noted for his participation in the slave trade, looking out from Oriel College in Oxford and highlighted by the Black Lives Matter campaign, and the wider questions being raised about what these memorials say to significant members of our communities. In our news last weekend, President Erdogan of Turkey caused a stir when he decided to make the famous Byzantine church Hagia Sophia into a mosque after being a symbol of peace and a museum of both Christian and Muslim heritage for 80 years. Do we see the problem? I wonder how we respond. So as we return or prepare to return to our churches, we reflect seriously on what has been done during lockdown by many. The work of the community chaplain and the volunteers of Community Cupboard, normally based at Rose Hill, but now distributed within the community. The food banks and the volunteers from many churches, countless parcels delivered to those who were self-isolating, all the pastoral phone calls and delivery of newsletters and service sheets, the care offered to NHS staff, the recorded worship, which is clearly reaching more people than all those who went to church in our circuit before lockdown. And what of Zoom worship, coffee mornings, prayer groups, and of course, meetings. For those with the technology to access them. And then let's add on all those who copy the text and distribute them to those who can't. The Methodist people among all denominations and world faiths are thinking about the best things we have learned and the need to keep, and what we need to do to refresh the way things have been. In our hearts, we know that the church is more than the building. It's a sacred space, and in many ways, the church is what people do. But we need to belong and need a space to express ourselves as church. And for many, it is their spiritual home, even when we can't be there. So as we prepare to reopen, I wonder if we can see church with new eyes, as a place which speaks of our openness, of welcome, hospitality and encounter, of prayerful memory and purposeful action and engagement with the world's needs and concerns. In other words, a sign of hope and God with us. Whether we are eager to return or anxious about going back, may we support one another, listen to one another, and help each other to this new place.